What's up, people? It's your girl Adeola. A lot has happened since last week. Soldiers invaded the vicinity of Nnamdi Kanu and they shot one person.
This is security personnel who was shot by the Nigerian army.
So then, Biafrans were throwing stones at soldiers, allegedly in retaliation. Anyway, the army came out later to say that Biafrans were the first to attack them while they were parading their armored vehicles. They said that the throwing of stones that we saw in the previous video happened before they shot somebody. Now, they also shared pictures of a bleeding soldier and a civilian that the soldiers claimed that Biafrans attacked. Till now, we don't know who really attacked who first, because the army also invaded the National Union of Journalists office in Abia, destroying cameras and other devices of journalists. I'm still coming back to talk about that, by the way. Later on in another video, we saw Biafran police. You guys know that they now have their own security service. So we saw them pulling out in buses saying that they are going to protect Nnamdi Kanu.
This is a lion squad on their way to Mazi. Their leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, soon.
You don't have to show the bus struggling. That's sometimes you don't know when to be serious. This is a very serious issue. As I was saying, Nigerian army went back to Nnamdi Kanu's house with several trucks surrounding Kanu's house and placing him under house arrest. Now, the second day, we saw another video of soldiers beating Biafran members. Soldiers stripped them and forced them to lie in mud water.
Now, wow.
People are already saying that some of those in the video were dead. But before we go on, can I just say that whether you agree with the Biafran movement or not, under a democratic system of government, the Nigerian government has no right to deploy soldiers to invade Abia State or Kanu's home. It doesn't matter whether you agree with Kanu or not. It's in our constitution as a democratic system. If the government has issues with Kanu, the police are the ones supposed to handle the case and the courts, not soldiers. If police are not able to handle the case, then the government is supposed to get the permission of the National Assembly to declare a state of emergency before deploying soldiers. That's what the constitution says. Please make sure that you read the article by human rights lawyer Femi Falana. He explained it much better. And if you don't condemn what's happening with the soldiers invading Nnamdi Kanu's home just because you don't agree with Biafrans, if something like that should happen to you, don't expect others to condemn it. Whatever is wrong, regardless of whoever you support. Because why do we have the constitution if we would not follow it? And since our vice president is a lawyer, I don't understand. Is it that Buhari is not consulting his vice before ordering something like this? Or is it that Buhari is not listening to his vice president? I don't understand that. Right now, soldiers are supposed to be fighting Boko Haram, not invading Abia State. Instead, they shot a civilian, as you guys saw in that video. This is not right. It is absolutely not right. We are not in a military regime. The guy was not arrested or tried in court. They just shot him. And for them to also torture IPOB members like this without arresting them or trying them in court for any crime is absolutely not right. Soldiers have now been so empowered to the point where they are also attacking journalists. This is not right. You know the danger in all of this? The way the government is handling this whole Nnamdi Kanu thing. The danger in it is that we are all sitting on a keg of gunpowder and it can explode at any time. This thing can get out of hand. For example, there were reports that Igbos in River State started attacking Hausa people because they thought Nnamdi Kanu, their leader, had been killed. Now, if something like that should happen, don't you know that Hausas in the north may also start killing Igbos in the north? And not all Igbos want Biafra, by the way. So a lot of innocent people will die. And don't think that because you are not Hausa or Igbo that you will be spared. If war breaks out, a lot of innocent people will die regardless of wherever you are from. I don't know if you guys saw the video of armed Biafrans that were hunting for houses in buses. In the same video, we see that they've burned some things, like they already set a fire on a trailer. I've said this several times on this show that both parties need to act like matured adults. The government should address their sentiments. They say that they are being marginalized, so have a dialogue. Remember that when Niger Deltans were bombing pipelines, the vice president went to speak with them in person and they stopped bombing the pipelines. Buhari should eat some humble pie and meet with Nnamdi Kanu. Because while we're focusing on Biafra, other groups are now springing up. Have you guys heard about Adeola's grandson? The guy is calling for Oduduwa Republic. He wants Yoruba people to secede from Nigeria. And once again, he's also calling for violence.
When we eventually take over the Nigerian Yoruba port from Hausa Fulani, we are going to do one thing, which is going to be very significant and it's going to be unique. We are going to pollute their water with chemical weapons. So,
what the heck?
We are going to contaminate their air with biological weapons.
What the heck? Seriously, can you imagine? The guy wants to contaminate the air and pollute the water with biological weapons. Now, which one be biological weapons now, for God's sake? You see what I'm saying? If the government can justify arresting Nnamdi Kanu or surrounding his house with soldiers, placing him under house arrest, torturing IPOB members, how come they did not arrest this one that wants to come with biological weapon? He's declaring war on Igbos and Hausas.
If Hausa Fulani soldiers and the Igbo soldier should kill any one member of our organization, we are going to contaminate their air.
By the way, my brother, it is air, not here.
We are going to contaminate their air.
You don't have to play it again. He heard me. It's air. Sure, you understand?
They are here.
Anyway, now let me talk to Biafrans. And I know you won't like this, but we have to talk about it. Especially when I'm seeing a lot of young, innocent people suffering, being tortured, and a lot of them buying into the whole idea of it's either Biafra or death. Personally, I think that instead of saying that you want your own country because you are being marginalized, I think that it's always good to start by making your leaders accountable. It's not as if the government imposed Hausa leaders or Yoruba leaders on you. Your governors are Igbo, are they not? The senators representing you, they are Igbos. You voted for them. If Igbo land is not being developed, if it's being marginalized, why not hold your leaders or your representatives accountable and make them speak for you at the national level? One of the things that a lot of Biafrans are saying is that sometimes the people that they want to represent them in government are not the ones there that the government is imposing, even though these people are also Igbo, that the government is imposing their own people on them. I think the people should also sponsor their own candidate and get the candidate there, whoever would represent them at the national level and represent their own interests. And if that is not working, and then you can resort to other peaceful means, not instigating violence or promoting hate speeches. All I'm saying is that instead of instigating violence because you want to secede, I was thinking that Nnamdi Kanu would have started by doing something to develop, even if it's his hometown. You know what I'm saying? He was doing fundraising online for years. The question is, what did he do with all the money to help his people? Also, I don't know, and this is just a suggestion, an observation. You are free to do whatever you want, but I honestly don't know if you can get what you actually want by idolizing somebody. You don't have to put up this photo. I already said last week that the man was doing push-up when Nnamdi Kanu was walking by. Get out. But besides the fact that the man talks to his followers anyhow.
If you are attending a Yoruba church, you should be ashamed of yourself. Anybody attending a Pentecostal church with a Yoruba pastor is an idiot, a complete fool, an imbecile. They are very, very foolish. If your pastor is Yoruba, you are not fit to be a human being. You
don't have to play that, by the way. They know what I'm talking about. Because, it worries me. It's not just the fact that he talks to them anyhow, but some people now worship Nnamdi Kanu. I'm not saying that you shouldn't make him a leader, but there's a danger to that. How do you hold him accountable as well? Even little children and adults now call him a savior. Some people are saying that he's bigger than Jesus. Holy, 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 holy. Now, these same kids in the video, they already bought into the ideology that it's either Nigeria divides or that they are willing to die.
You must stand firm for our enemy. That's why I hold to the Biafra. I will die in the process. There will be no retreat, No surrender, no dispersion, and no give up.
These are kids. Okay, that scares me when I see something like that. Even if you get Biafra and you become your own country and you are already idolizing this man, how would you hold him accountable as well? Meanwhile, the late Ojukwu, who headed the Biafra movement in the 60s, already said that there is no need for another Biafra because millions of innocent people died at that time, and he knew that more people would die again if it happens again.
A lot of people will say, but you were leading the first one. Yes, I led the first one. I don't think a second one is necessary. We should have learned from that first one. Otherwise, the dead would have been to no avail.
So why is it okay for somebody to risk the lives of innocent, probably unemployed young people? So right now, the Nigerian military has labeled IPOB, the Indigenous People of Biafra, as a terrorist group. What do you think? Should they be labeled as terrorists or not? Keep in mind, a lot of people are talking about the fact that the herdsmen that have killed hundreds of people were never labeled as terrorists. So let me know what you think about IPOB being labeled as a terrorist group. Finally, racism is the main problem in Nigeria. We call it tribalism, but Nigerians are very racist to other ethnic groups. Even though no one chose to be Hausa, no one chose to be Igbo, no one chose to be Yoruba or any other ethnicity that you are from, you didn't choose it. It was just an accident until we learn to see each other as just one human race. There's only one human race. That's why we all have the same color of blood. Until we learn to see each other as human beings, we can't get anywhere and we can't avoid something like this. And not just that, until our government in Nigeria represents every ethnicity and stop nepotism, develops all parts of the country, not just the north or just the east or just the west, until everybody feels equally represented and not marginalized, we can't avoid conflicts like this. So we really have a lot of work to do. You guys know I don't know much. Guess what? I'm just keeping it real.